and how they're going to help train other police departments to have environmental crime units as well. And they're planning to do that because they are criminalizing anyone that is not implementing the new laws to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. Now, let's talk about what the plans are really about. Okay, you really can't see that chart, but I'm going to tell you what it says. You can see the top, potential climate change and health effects. This is what they're saying will happen to you if you do not implement these climate action plans. Going along the colored column to the left, they say this is what's going to happen to you if you don't reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. We're going to have increased heat and weather events, increased air pollution, floods and droughts, wildfires, storms, changes in weather patterns, higher food prices and food scarcity. We're going to have sea level rise, storm surges, and longer red tides. Now, what are going to be the human health causes if you don't reduce your greenhouse gas emissions? Phony, fake science. It's consensus science. And they're telling you, the corporations are telling you by this graph, the plans for you, because they control the weather. Now, we have to acknowledge the fact that they control the weather. So, what is going to happen to you? What is going to happen to you? And we're going to talk a little bit more about the geoengineering programs in a moment, but not too much, because that's also another entire topic. But the gray area going down on the right, these are your health problems if you don't adhere to retrofitting your appliances. They're saying that you will have health-related illnesses that could cause death, worsening of chronic health conditions, increased respiratory illnesses and seasonal allergies, injury and death, again, waterborne and airborne illnesses, foodborne illnesses, displacement, stress-related disorders, mental health impacts, increased hunger, decreased nutrition, injury and death. And they talk about how we will have increasing mental health impacts. Now, in a crazy plan like this, who wouldn't have mental health impacts? Now, what you can't read underneath is that if you go to the corporation called the CDC, they'll give you a longer list of the ailments that will occur if you do not adhere to these climate action plans. The CDC is a private corporation doing business for the corporate structure. So, what do we really have? We have an environmental and economic warfare. That's what we really have. Because these plans are crazy. The engineered weather is something that many of you may not be aware of, but you need to look into. Are the climate action plans really going to prevent climate change? I will tell you that there's over 31,000 American scientists and physicists and doctors that say that it will not impact climate change. There are thousands of scientists globally, including Russia, that says we could reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 100% and it would not have the opportunity to get home loans. It says the benefit of all of this is going to increase jobs in Santa Rosa. So I want to say that this has been science. This is all consensus science. This is, again, the Delphi corporate technique for science. We've all been Delphi'd through the Rand Corporation. And in that black box, I've gotten several things written down, and I thought this was very important. World War III will be a guerrilla information war with no division between military and civilian participation. Also, the nation which first learns to plot the paths of air masses accurately and learns to control the time and place of precipitation will dominate the globe. This was told us in 1940 by General George Kenney, commander of the U.S. Strategic Air Command. Also, the U.S. Air Force announced in 1996 that they would own the weather by the year 2025. They own the weather now. Weather modification is a large, deliberate scale and manipulation of the Earth's climate. And this is said to us in the Harvard Kennedy School website, the Belfer Center for Science and Engineers. In fact, I have a poster that we took off the Harvard Kennedy website that talks about geoengineering. And again, more information about what is happening with the geoengineering and the weather manipulation. For those of you that are just hearing about it for the first time, I encourage you to keep your minds open. Don't leave like I did when I was told some things. It took me months to come back to that topic. I wished I hadn't lost that much time, but I didn't believe. And again, this is the global warming petition that was signed by over 31,000 scientists to let us all know that all of the global warming ideas are false consensus science. The Rand Corporation.
How many scientists signed that?
31,487 American scientists signed the petition.
How does this have any relevance whatsoever, considering the fact that our weather is completely controlled?
Well, could we hold that?
You mentioned in one of your last talks that petroleum wasn't what we thought it was, that it wasn't a fossil fuel, that it didn't come from fossil animals.
Yeah.
Is it just a mineral? Is it a mineral like any other mineral? Is that how it what would you say? What's the origin of
You see,
petroleum?
when they first found petroleum, because they were beginning to make motors and needed on axles of wheels on railroad trains and all that sort of thing, and remember, trains started in the beginning of the 19th century. Then oil went from just a lubricant to a fuel, and it made it valuable. And Rockefeller happened to be the smartest man in the business at the time, but he made most of his money, or much of it, off the transport of the petroleum as well as selling it. But one thing they realized was, because oil is putting a price on oil is like putting a price on a pail of water. You know, no initial cost. It's in the ground, and in those days they were, some of it almost what you'd call surface mining the oil. They didn't go down deep. So in order to get the price up, they hit on the idea that they would have to make it appear to be scarce. That after we take the next few barrels out, we're probably going to have to close as well. You know, that kind of thing. But a very fortuitous event. In 1892, there was a convention in Geneva of scientists to determine what organic substances are. Well, the definition of organic is a substance with hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. And so it's usually a living substance, a tree. You analyze a dead tree, hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen, and grass and so on, living things. Animals, we are hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. So at this Geneva Convention, Rockefeller took advantage of sending some scientists over who said, oil, petroleum, is hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. Therefore, it must be derived from the spoiling, the rotting of formerly living matter. And playing the game properly, when this scientific convention was over, they defined oil as the residue from formerly living matter. Well, that makes it a fossil fuel. I don't know why.
So this was Colonel Fletcher Prouty, and Colonel Prouty was the chief of Special Operations for the Joint Chiefs of Staff under President John F. Kennedy, a former colonel in the United States Air Force. He retired from the military and held different jobs and subsequently became a critic of U.S. foreign policy, particularly the covert activities of the CIA. So he had intel and information. Now, of course, this is just showing you the consequences of the smart meter on our brains. It's been proven that the frequencies will injure every single one of us and cause cell death. This is a list which I have in the back for you to take of the various maladies, ailments that will injure you with the smart meters, with the frequencies, and then the increased accumulative effect of all of the RFID chipped appliances. That increases the frequencies that are coming through your homes as your appliances are feeding that information to the collection device on your home called the smart meters. So people are going to start feeling aches and pains, increased allergies, feeling of depression, suicidal thoughts, increased autism for children, ADHD, and we're going to see massive increases of violence in our communities as a result of frequencies. This is a document that we have on our website, and why this is so important is that this not only includes the incorporated NASA, again, doing business for profit, but also the U.S. Air Force. Again, the U.S. Air Force was involved in the silent weapons document back in the 40s. This includes DARPA, the CIA, FBI. And on page 50, it says that they all recognize the low effects of microwave frequencies, that it will cause brain disruption, it will cause seizures, and it will increase brain blood flow and cause death. This pretty well speaks for itself. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. You change something by building a new world that makes the existing model obsolete. And this is what I struggled with for a long time, with coming up with solutions. And I can tell you that we've worked with a group nationwide, from all the way from Iowa and Ohio to Nevada. And we've come up with a solution that I actually have copies on the front desk to fend off the energy audits that are coming to your front door. None of you signed any of these corporate contracts. You did not receive money, and your signatures are not on these corporate contracts. They're doing business. You're not. You don't need to consent, and you must not. That is our single most important, powerful statement we can make. Now, the beauty of this questionnaire, and it's to be presented to anyone that comes to your property to do an energy audit, is that it's not confrontational. You just hand them this 2-page questionnaire and ask them to fill it out. And basically what you're asking them is to show you the corporate contract that you signed, that you agreed to. Now, this is just sticks in the spokes of a monster, but we have to do every single thing we can, and this is a start. We also have another questionnaire on smart meters. And this is just really hot off the press. So it will be on our website, but you can also find it on People for Safe Technologies on their website. It's the same idea, that the corporations have no power to implement their corporate statutes on your lives. Now, this is just a short list of what we would recommend as movies and reading material. You can come to me after the meeting if you'd like to write all of this down and copy it out of the book. But Torn from the Land is most important, along with USA Inc. Exposing the Thieves That Stole Our Government, The New World Order Exposed, and The Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullins. I can't recommend a better read to understand the secrets of the Federal Reserve than Eustace Mullins. And he was actually, there's questioning around his death. He was on tour giving talks when he suddenly died of a stroke. Also, I would encourage all of you to watch Lethal Injection. Again, this is part of the silent weapons system. Why am I saying this? Because, as you know, they're trying to vaccinate all of us. That's another conversation for another meeting. But also Exploding Immune Epidemic by Dr. Tent, T-E-N-T. I highly recommend everyone see that on YouTube. Again, the Iron Mountain Report. We have some copies, some CDs in the back that you can buy for $5. but I would recommend that everyone take a look at that. Also, The Harvest of Despair. It's a story of the Ukraine, so that you understand what happened in the Ukraine. That will be happening here in the United States as well. Another movie, The Harvest of Despair. And you can come to me. I have it in my book, and you can write it down. I'll leave it open, and you can copy it. Also, Oranges and Sunshine is an excellent movie. You have to rent it. It's a true story. It's a documentary. Really recommend everyone see this as well. And of course, I recommend everyone go to stopthecrime.net and take a look at the Silent Weapons Quiet Wars document, the New World Order Exposed, the Fort Meade military document for non-lethal weapons. They're anything but non-lethal. And America's Last Minuteman, dated January 1st of 2011 by James Traficant. He was the one that presented on the Congressional Record. And I want to tell you, I wrote this a couple of years ago, and I still believe it now. To believe the unimaginable, move into a new reality, manage the unthinkable when so many others are aware is really the challenge of our time. And I'd just like to conclude with, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Thank you so much, everybody.